This picture is one cerebral hemisphere of the brain. And if I put it on my head, it's actually the right side of my brain. But all it is if I take the cerebral hemispheres, I split them in half, and I'm looking at what does the brain look like as a cross section. What does the brain look like if I were to slice it in half? Okay, so this whole bumpy region here is called the one cerebral hemisphere. In the middle, you can see, I kind of think it looks like a Nike check if it was upside down. But this area in the middle of the cerebral hemisphere is called the corpus callosum. And all I'm going to do right now is label this. And when we do the next set of notes tomorrow or the next day, I'm going to tell you what each one of these things does. So we're just labeling right now. So this is your corpus callosum here in the middle. Underneath that, you will get the thalamus. Extending off of the thalamus is something called your pineal gland. I've heard it called pineal. I've heard it called pineal. Either way is right. Here is your whole cerebellum. Inside of that cerebellum, you can see it looks like a whole bunch of tree branches. And they actually call this the tree of life. And that translates to arbor, which is tree, vitae, which is life. Vitae. And so this whole structure is the cerebellum. And all they've done is kind of sliced off a cross section of it. You remember the acronym from the other side, PMS. We have our pons. We have the medulla oblongata. And we have the spinal cord. This gland here is the pituitary gland. And then under the thalamus, here's your thalamus, under that, your stem for under is hypo, would be the hypothalamus. Okay, and when we do the brain dissection, you'll be able to see all of these structures. For the most part, you'll be able to see all of them. But we are going to do the brain dissection after I come back. So the week after Thanksgiving. And then you will see this picture again on your test. So your test should be Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And you will have all of these labeling on it. So start reviewing. You'll have a practice sheet tomorrow on that. Okay, I do want to go to this picture here quickly and just run through it with you as review, and then we'll be done. Okay, this is another picture of the brain, a little bit more simplistic than the other picture. If I was to label the front and the back, always remember that the cerebellum is in the back. And so this is the more posterior part of the brain. This is the front of the brain. So this would be the cerebellum. I already told you what that one was. Let me get my cheat sheet here. That's your cerebellum. Here is your pons. Underneath the pons is your medulla oblongata. We could actually extend this down a little further, and this would be your spinal cord. In the back of the brain, the most posterior lobe of the brain would be your occipital lobe. The sulcus that goes in between the occipital lobe and the parietal lobe is your parieto-occipital. And since it's a groove, it's a sulcus. And that's the groove in between your occipital lobe and your parietal lobe. Running down the brain is this central sulcus. We have our pre and our post central gyrus. Since this is the more anterior portion of the brain, this is the front of the brain, this would be your pre-central sulcus. This would be your post-central sulcus. So always look and see where the front is to know which one's pre and which one's post. You got to be careful there. This is your post-central gyrus. This is your pre-central gyrus. And they are called a gyrus because it's a bump, not a groove. This is the front lobe of the brain, so that's called your frontal lobe. Here is another groove, and that groove is running laterally through the brain, so we'll call that the lateral. Since it's a groove, it is a sulcus. And the last lobe here, right above the cerebellum, is the temporal lobe. Okay, so if this picture's easier than the one that's colored, you can look at this one. Everything that's on, I'm double checking here. Everything that's on this picture is on the other picture. So if you like this one better, then study this one. That's not a problem at all. But either one is fine. It's the same information. It's just a different way to look at it. Okay, this should get you through the labeling portion for the nervous system. Let me look back on my notes. I do not believe you will have any other labeling for the test, so you have all the information now that you need. So if I were you, go ahead and start memorizing and make it easy, because when I get to the next section, which is what is the frontal lobe responsible for, what is the pons, what is the thalamus, what's the hypothalamus, that information is more detailed and a little bit harder to memorize. So if I were you, I'd go ahead and knock this out now so you don't have to worry about it later. All right, email me if you have questions.